This video today is the first of two, which will look at ways that you can reduce the risk of rejection in sports science. What I will say is trying to reduce that risk. You can never take it away. Sometimes you get rejected even though you tick every single box. You interview really well. But there are some basic things that you can take into consideration which will reduce that risk. Firstly, I recommend you get work experience early. It's kind of a common theme of the channel already, which I've spoken about quite a bit. But whether you're in first year or final year, you've got to get some form of experience. So whether that be shadowing, whether that be getting a job that's paid, whatever it is that aids you going forward into what you want to do, you need to think about it now and have a strategy about how you get into that. Secondly, additional qualifications. This comes from looking at adverts. I'd look at job adverts in your field. Again, whether you're in your first year or final year, you need to look at these and understand, what do I need in addition to my degree? Because the degree won't be enough. You need the experience, you need the qualifications. The earlier you look, the easier it is to prepare for the future. You have more time to save money, and you'll just be more employable than the person who's not looking. A lot of students have an aspiration to do something, but maybe they won't follow up the additional stuff they need. That's not laziness, maybe it's naivety of only looking at the job adverts towards the end of the degree. Panic mode sets in, didn't realize you need X, Y, and Z to actually meet the criteria. So the earlier you do this, the better. Next, increase your knowledge and practical skills. So your degree is one thing, but there are extra things you need to do away from your course that make you stand out. And you're going to get quizzed as well. You go to an interview, it's not all about your degree, it's your real in-depth knowledge of what you know about the job you're going for. So, for example, if I was going for a job in strength conditioning, I would get grilled on, well, what's my knowledge on how to train an athlete? Okay, you might do a bit of that within your degree, but the real knowledge comes from reading the books, the podcasts, the journal articles, having that science to back up what you're talking about. That's where I went wrong in loads of interviews, why I was rejected. I couldn't articulate the science. So I can't stress enough to read the papers, look at the podcasts. And also, some jobs need those practical elements as well. So, for example, GPS units. Um, get to know them, whatever it is that's a practical element, get experience, hands on experience of using that particular equipment or software as well. And finally, network. It's something I talk about again all the time, but it is really key that you understand who is in that industry you want to go into. So, Google's that perfect start. If it's physiotherapy and rugby, okay, well, who works in that field right now? How can I contact them? So, an easy way first is maybe LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. It's probably better to go through the formal channels such as email, setting up calls on Zoom or Teams, and really just knowing these people is going to be so important to get where you want to be in the future. Because it is a real cliche term of, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's also who they know. It's not to say that person will directly give you a job, but if you make a good impression with people that you network with, they can put you in with someone else that they know if an opening comes up. And these are just a few quotes I'll finish off with. What I hear from students, and I appreciate everyone's got their own different circumstances, so I'll be careful how I counter these comments. But one thing I hear is years away. So you speak to a first year student and you can commonly hear, well, I'm not going to think about that. It's a long time away. It's fair enough. But if you're really keen on one particular career pathway, well, why are you not pursuing it now? Why are you not thinking about steps A, B, and C to get to where you want to be? It's really, really crucial. If you have an idea in mind, go for it. Don't just sit back for 2 or 3 years and then start taking it seriously. Do it from day one if you're really sure. Next, this one's tricky. It's I don't have time. Yeah, I don't know people's personal lives, what they have to go through to get through college and to pay for it. But small things. Are there things that you can do to add half an hour of productive time to your day? So, could you wake up half an hour earlier? Is your screen time really high? Watching Netflix, scrolling through Instagram. Are there things that you can do just for half an hour, reading a paper, listening to part of a podcast that can help you? Just daily habits, little things that you can change, not huge wholesale changes. Next is, well, I'll figure it all out when I graduate. I'm not saying this is wrong. Everyone's different. Um, but it does help if you kind of have a good idea of what you want to do, or you know the steps that you should be taking, but you're not taking them because you're too laid back. That can sting you in the future. So just saying, well, I'll think about it tomorrow, I'll think about it next week. If you continue that habit and that week turns into a year, you can argue you've lost a year where there's so much stuff you could have done within that time period to get ahead of all the other people that are going to graduate and do what you want to do. This one here all the time. Again, I'm not saying this is wrong, but everyone's different. I did a video on should you take a gap year, and for some people it's very good. For other people, they can drift off, and this is what can happen. Well, yeah, I didn't really think about it. I was a bit laid back about it. I'll have a year off and I'll think about it. People drift away in some cases with this mentality. So I'd really consider that sort of thing and these sort of quotes and see if this resonates with you. Okay, so to finish off, you will be rejected. There's no magic wand, it's going to happen. But the earlier you act, the earlier you think about your career and get some of these basic things right, you are going to reduce that the likelihood of being rejected for jobs that you want. Okay, so that was part one. In part two, I'm going to speak more about the application process. But in general, again, if you have any questions about rejection, I'm more than happy to open up about my rejection, how it made me feel, because I really want to normalize this. Do get in touch, Sports Science Hacks on Instagram and at CJ Thompson 90 on Twitter. Okay, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you again in part two.